Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we are taking a deep dive into something incredibly personal, something that shapes literally everything you experience, your inner world. We've got some fascinating source material from Briantracy, someone who dedicated decades, like we're talking 30,000 hours, to understanding what makes people successful.
That's really the core of it. Tracy's central premise, which is honestly pretty mind-bending, is that success and happiness aren't things you get from the outside.
Oh, interesting.
They are a direct reflection of what's going on inside you. Your external reality, well, it corresponds with your inner state.
Wow, so the claim right off the bat is that my outer life is basically a mirror of my inner one. That's a powerful starting point.
It really is.
And he says this isn't just, a nice idea, but it's based on something fundamental, like laws of nature.
Exactly. He talks about mental laws, these principles that are as consistent and predictable as gravity.
Okay.
They work 100% of the time on
Yeah.
everyone, whether you're aware of them or not. Living in harmony with them brings the good stuff, success, happiness. Living out of harmony, well, that's where the problems tend to crop up.
It makes you wonder, though, if these laws are universal and work for everyone, why aren't more people living lives they absolutely love?
That's a great question.
The source points to something pretty stark here, this idea that most people are operating way below their actual potential, like maybe scoring a 2 or 3 out of 10 on their capabilities.
That's right. He cites some pretty eye-opening stats, like estimates that maybe 84% of people are underemployed.
84%, wow.
Yeah, meaning their work just doesn't tap into their full abilities. And then there's that Stanford estimate suggesting maybe we're only using around 2% of our potential.
2%.
It's a bit confronting maybe, but the upside is huge. The source says you truly can be, have, or do anything you want because that vast potential is already there inside you.
And there's this beautiful paradox he touches on, too.
Yeah.
You are astonishingly unique.
Totally unique.
The odds of you are something like 50 billion to 1, with unique fingerprints, earprints, everything.
Incredible, isn't it?
Yet, when it comes to these foundational mental laws, you are fundamentally the same as every other human. We all play by these same internal rules.
Which is precisely why understanding those rules, understanding that inner landscape, is so critical. And Tracy breaks down the architecture of your inner world, starting with what he calls the self-concept.
Okay, the self-concept. Think of it as the control tower, the master program running your whole personality.
Yeah, exactly. It's this complex bundle of all your beliefs, your values, your attitudes built from every single experience you've ever had.
Every single one.
Seems like it. And here's the key. It precedes, predicts, and ultimately determines your performance. Want to change your external results?
You have to start inside.
You have to start by changing the self-concept. Absolutely.
Okay.
And managing the system involves understanding the different parts of your mind. First up, there's the conscious mind.
Right, the thinking part.
The part you're probably most familiar with, the one doing the thinking right now, but it's maybe only about 10% of your overall capacity.
Only 10%.
Okay.
And it's objective. Like it doesn't feel emotions about things.
Right. It's rational and it's discriminating. It helps you sort of figure out truth from falsehood.
Makes sense.
And it's constantly working through 4 main functions. It identifies incoming data, a thought, something you see or hear.
Okay.
Then it quickly compares that data to everything stored in your subconscious history, like a quick check.
Ah.
And then it analyzes the situation based on that comparison. And finally, it decides a simple yes or no, basically a binary choice.
And it can only hold one thought at a time, right?
That's what the source suggests, yeah. One conscious thought.
The analogy Tracy uses makes it really clear. Imagine you're walking across the street. You identify the sound of a car horn.
Right.
Your conscious mind compares that sound and the sight of the car to every car you've ever encountered, pulling data instantly from your subconscious.
Mm-hmm. Fast comparison.
You analyze the car's speed and distance based on that comparison.
Yeah.
And you decide, step back or keep walking.
And that whole process happens in a flash.
Right.
And that decision, that input, gets sent to the other major component, the subconscious mind.
And this is the big one.
This is where the real power is at least 90% or more of your mental capacity. It's the vast data bank storing literally everything.
Everything.
Okay.
And the crucial difference is that the subconscious is the subjective mind. It obeys.
Yes. It doesn't analyze or decide like the conscious mind. It just follows instructions. And it's incredibly fast, something like 30,000 times faster than the conscious mind.
Whoa. 30,000 times faster.
Yeah, astonishing speed. And it's primarily activated by emotion.
Emotion is the trigger.
Fear, desire, survival instincts, love. The stronger the feeling attached to a thought from your conscious mind, the faster and more powerfully the subconscious gets to work.
Okay.
And critically, the subconscious is constantly striving to keep everything consistent with that self-concept we talked about.
So it reinforces your current reality.
Exactly. Whatever that reality is right now, it works to keep it that way.
Okay, so if the subconscious is just reinforcing whatever's in there, where does breakthrough happen? Where does inspiration, creativity, or that sudden burst of motivation come from?
Good question. This is where Tracy introduces the idea of the superconscious mind.
The superconscious.
He describes it as a greater mind or maybe infinite intelligence, something people throughout history have intuitively accessed.
Like inventors, artists.
Exactly. It's the source of those aha moments, the hunches, the intuition, the pure creativity and drive.
And the amazing part, it works non-consciously, 24/7.
That's the idea, 24 hours a day. Tracy says that once you give it a clear goal or problem, it automatically and continuously solves every single problem that comes up on the path to that goal.
Every single one. You don't need the whole roadmap.
Apparently not. You don't need to map out the whole journey. You just need to take the first step, and the superconscious gets to work on the next challenge.
That's incredible.
It also provides that powerful goal-oriented motivation once you're clear on what you want. And its capability actually grows the more you use it, and importantly, the more you believe in its existence and power.
So belief is key.
Belief seems crucial. You can consciously program it, especially when you use authoritative language and attach emotion. It responds strongly to decisiveness, declaring things like, I will do this, I am this, I earn this much.
Like you're giving it a direct order.
Kind of, yeah. And this all ties together in what Tracy calls the law of superconscious activity. Get ready for this, because he calls it the big truth.
Okay, the big truth.
Any thought, plan, goal, or idea that you hold continuously in your conscious mind, especially when you charge it with intense desire or fear,
Yeah.
must be brought into reality by your superconscious mind. It has to happen.
That's a huge claim.
It's massive. So if this inner architecture is so powerful and we have this incredible superconscious capacity, what stops us? What holds us back from achieving everything we want?
Right. What are the roadblocks?
This is where Tracy says we need to identify and release the brakes.
The brakes.
Okay.
And he points straight to self-limiting beliefs.
Spot on. The source suggests most of our limitations aren't real. They exist only in our minds.
Just in our heads.
Often having nothing to do with actual talent, which he believes is pretty widely distributed. The starting point is just questioning and maybe discarding these internal barriers.
And our expectations play a huge role too, right? The law of expectations.
Simple but profound. You don't always get what you want, but you absolutely do get what you expect.
Oof. That hits home.
Even if your expectation is based on completely false information, it tends to become a self-fulfilling prophecy. He mentions research like Rosenthal's experiments confirming this.
Right.
Successful people have positive self-expectancy. They expect good things to happen, and those expectations come from their core beliefs and values.
Okay. And what's really called out in the source material is this deep link between negative emotions and refusing to take responsibility.
Yeah, that's a strong connection he makes. Tracy suggests that negative emotions, especially blame, stem from choosing not to be fully responsible for your life.
Blaming others keeps you stuck.
Exactly. He even mentions perspectives suggesting varying degrees of mental illness could perhaps be seen as degrees of irresponsibility. It's a provocative idea.
Definitely.
Taking responsibility is presented as the absolute key to unlocking your power, your influence, and maintaining healthy mental functioning. When you blame others or external circumstances, you basically give your power away and stay stuck.
Right. And the source zeroes in on guilt, capital G guilt, as a core, really debilitating negative emotion.
Yeah, he really focuses on guilt. It's described as this deep feeling of not being worth very much, often rooted in childhood experiences of criticism and maybe a perceived lack of unconditional love.
That feeling of I'm not good enough.
Exactly, that pervasive I'm not good enough feeling. Guilt is frequently installed by negative parents, other influences, or certain types of religious upbringing, according to the source.
And it's used for manipulation.
Oh, yeah. For punishment to get conformance, or for control to get what someone wants from you, time, money, behavior. It's easy to use because, frankly, so many people are carrying around a burden of guilt.
Tracy calls guilt a cesspool at the core of your psyche. That's strong language.
It is, because it generates all the other destructive emotions. Anger, hatred, envy, resentment, you name it.
Okay, so here's where we get really practical, because the source lists several adult manifestations of this core guilt. As we go through these, maybe take a moment, you listening, and ask yourself honestly how many of these resonate with you.
Yeah, good idea. Number 1, feelings of inferiority, inadequacy, and undeservingness.
So like fear of success, imposter syndrome.
Exactly. That feeling like any achievement was just a fluke, you don't really deserve it.
Okay. Number 2.
Destructive self-criticism. This is tearing yourself down internally, constantly telling yourself you're not good enough. It's something children learn painfully early if they're subject to harsh criticism.
Right. 3.
Being easily manipulated by guilt. The source mentions guilt throwers and guilt catchers, how people who use guilt are kind of drawn to those who are conditioned to feel it. Someone can pull your guilt strings pretty easily if you let them.
Number 4.
Using guilt and blame generously on others. If you were blamed a lot, you learn to blame others, to pin the rap on someone else. It's that automatic reaction to look for who's at fault instead of taking responsibility.
Okay. And 5.
Victim language. Think about phrases like, I can't, or I have to, which signal powerlessness, or I'll try, which Tracy interprets as basically setting yourself up for failure in advance, like you're not really committed.
Right, leaving it out.
Exactly. Or I wish, which is just a desire with no energy or belief behind it. And the classic yes, but.
Oh, I know that one.
Right? It cancels out any positive suggestion that came before it, signaling zero commitment to the idea.
Wow. That list is powerful, maybe uncomfortably so for some of us. Okay, so how do we actually start to dismantle this guilt? The source gives us clear steps.
Number 1, consciously eliminate destructive self-criticism. Actively choose to only say about yourself what you sincerely desire to be true.
Like positive self-talk.
Yeah, and the key phrase he suggests repeating is simple. I like myself, over and over.
I like myself. Okay, number 2?
Refuse to be manipulated by guilt. He suggests a direct response, which I find kind of amusing. You're not trying to make me feel guilty, are you?
Huh. Calling it out.
Exactly. It disarms the technique. Number 3, refuse to use guilt and blame on others. Make a conscious decision not to do it, and maybe even announce it to those around you.
Okay, taking a stand. And number 4.
Practice the law of forgiveness. This is called the most important step, absolutely central to happiness, success, and mental health.
Forgiveness.
And here's a key insight. Forgiveness isn't just for the other person. Tracy says it's selfish, you do it for your peace of mind.
For yourself. Makes sense.
There are 4 key groups to forgive.
Get it.
Your parents for anything that hurt you. Forgive others, everyone else who hurt you. Forgive yourself for foolish things you've done.
It's a big one.
Huge. And if you hurt someone, go apologize, which takes real courage and character.
Absolutely.
Forgiveness is ultimately about letting go of grudges. It's seen as a mark of a truly enlightened human being, moving past maybe a childish need to hold on to blame.
Okay. What about worry? That's another big one.
Right. The source calls worry fantasized experiences appearing real. FEAR. It's literally making up negative scenarios in your head.
Yeah, we all do that sometimes.
A powerful, simple method to eliminate worry, which also works for making tough decisions, is apparently borrowed from J. Paul Getty, the oil billionaire.
Okay, what is it?
Ask yourself, what's the worst thing that can possibly happen? Determine that absolute worst outcome, then accept it should occur. Just mentally accept it.
Okay, accept the worst.
And then immediately take constructive action to prevent it or minimize its impact. Shift from worry to action.
I like that. Practical. So if releasing the brakes is step 1, how do we actively take charge and start programming ourselves for success?
It begins with that purposeful, systematic control of your conscious mind we mentioned earlier.
Right, choosing your thoughts.
Exactly. It's about intentionally feeding positive input. Repeating a phrase like, I like myself, isn't just an affirmation. It's like a command that drives positive information into your subconscious, helping to overwrite those old, unhelpful programs.
And this builds self-esteem.
Yes. Self-esteem isn't static. It's built through continually doing things that cause you to genuinely, love, accept, and respect yourself. The source calls it the absolute starting point for both great personal success and for being able to help others feel good about themselves.
And self-esteem and self-responsibility, they go hand in hand.
Tracy says they are the 2 indispensable requirements for peak performance. They reinforce each other. The message is clear and really empowering. You are the architect of your destiny. Everything is truly up to you.
Wow.
Another fundamental principle is the law of concentration. Whatever you dwell upon grows.
What you focus on expands.
Exactly. When you focus your thoughts repeatedly on something, you dedicate your mental capacity to it. Tracy suggests this creates a kind of vibratory feel connecting to concepts maybe like the law of attraction or vibration that actually draws people, resources, and circumstances into your reality consistent with those dominant thoughts.
So focus is key.
Absolutely. The absolute key is dwelling on what you want, not dwelling on what you fear.
Got it. So changing your self-concept means building a self-ideal. Is that right?
Yes, the self-ideal, the person you genuinely want to become, compiling all the qualities you admire. This ideal acts like an internal role model and a kind of built-in directional GPS for your subconscious.
So you change your self-concept by consistently feeding your mind new information and experiences that align with this desired ideal.
That's the process. The process of changing beliefs starts exactly where you are, clearly identifying where you want to go, and then deliberately feeding your mind input consistent with that goal.
What about skepticism? Disbelief?
That's a hurdle for sure. But the source says through repetition, practice, and just working on yourself, belief will follow. It means actively discarding old labels and declaring things like, in the past, I might have struggled with X, but now I am someone who Y.
Okay, actively rewriting the script.
Exactly. And none of this happens without effort. The source puts huge emphasis on discipline and willpower.
Right, the hard work part.
Willpower is persistence when things get tough. Discipline is simply doing what you know you should do, when you should do it, whether you feel like it or not.
Even when you don't feel like it.
Especially then. Tracy calls discipline the master key to riches, and not just financial riches. Every single action you take moves you either toward your goal or away from it. Nothing is neutral.
Life isn't a practice run.
Not a rehearsal. Which brings us to what he calls the master skill of success. Goal setting.
Ah, goals. Important stuff.
The source suggests this should be taught to everyone from a young age, yet most people never take the time to figure out what they truly want.
Why not?
The primary failure mechanism for most people, he says, is the comfort zone. That natural human tendency to do what's easy, what feels good right now, driven by the pleasure principle.
Avoiding discomfort.
Right. Overcoming this requires proactivity, making things happen, rather than passivity, just letting life happen to you.
Okay, so the source includes a powerful goal-setting exercise. We'd really encourage you listening right now to maybe grab a notebook after this deep dive and really spend some time with these questions. Don't just listen, engage with them.
Yeah, definitely do that. First, list the 5 things you value most in life right now. Prioritize them 1 to 5.
Okay, top 5 values. Next.
Write down your 3 most important goals in life right now. Just 3.
3 most important goals.
Got it.
Now, here's a different angle. What would you do and how would you spend your time if you found out today you only had 6 months left to live? Ooh, that focuses the mind.
Now, a classic thought experiment. What would you do and how would you change your life if you won $1 million in the lottery tomorrow?
Lottery question.
What have you always wanted to do but have been afraid to attempt? Be really honest with yourself here.
Your hidden desires or fears.
Okay. What activities in life give you your greatest feeling of importance, pleasure, self-esteem, happiness, fulfillment? Think about when you've been happiest.
Peak moments. Got it.
And finally, the big one. What one great thing would you dare to dream if you knew, absolutely knew you could not fail?
If failure wasn't an option.
Wow. The source points out that your answers to questions 3, 4, 5, and 6 reveal so much about your core values, what you'd pursue if you were free from fear or limitation.
Like the lottery question or the 6 months question.
Exactly. And your self-limiting beliefs, especially from question 5, the one you're afraid to attempt. And your natural area of excellence, probably linked to question 6, when you feel happiest and most fulfilled.
That makes sense.
And here's a crucial point from the source. What you said you'd do with $1 million from question 4, it's almost certainly possible without the $1 million. The money might just be an excuse.
Interesting point. And what about that final question, the big dream?
The one great thing you'd dare to dream if you couldn't fail. The source makes a really bold claim. Whatever came to mind for you, that is achievable. It is possible.
Wow.
Tracy mentions there's a proven 12-step method for achieving goals, but he emphasizes the absolute first step, the non-negotiable starting point.
Desire.
Desire, not just wanting it.
Burning desire. You need a burning desire for that goal. It has to be personal, deeply felt, and that deep desire is the fuel you'll need to push through obstacles and temporary setbacks.
Makes sense. You need that drive. So, to keep all this going, building self-esteem, dismantling guilt, Pursuing goals, continuous learning is essential fuel, right?
Absolutely essential.
Yeah.
Tracy calls it psychological vitamins. He says stagnation isn't just standing still. It's actually the beginning of decline. You're either growing or decaying.
No standing still.
And he makes an interesting point that intelligence isn't fixed by IQ or education. It's fundamentally a way of acting. You can learn to use your mind more intelligently to get the results you want. Okay, so intelligence is actionable.
That's the idea, and you have to be conscious about what you feed your mind, just like you hopefully are with your body. Everything counts. The law of accumulation applies mentally, too. Small inputs add up over time.
So how do we consistently feed our minds for growth? What are the practical steps?
First, read. The statistics here are pretty alarming. The average adult reads less than one nonfiction book a year.
Less than one.
Yeah. And over half apparently never finish one after they leave school. The top 1% of earners. They read around 12 nonfiction books a year, sometimes more.
Big difference.
Huge! Tracy says reading just 30 to 60 minutes a day is enough to read a book a week, 50 books a year. Doing that, he claims, will transform your life. He strongly recommends cutting back on constant news consumption.
Okay, read more, less news. Second.
Listen to audio programs, or tapes, as he referred to them back then. He calls this the greatest advance since the printing press.
Strong claim. Why?
Because it turns unproductive time, especially commute time, into learning time. Think about it. The average driver spends 500 to 1,000 hours a year in their car.
That's a lot of time.
It's the equivalent of 12.5 to 25 full work weeks, or like 1 to 2 university semesters of education every single year, just by listening in the car. Meanwhile, he calls listening to the radio mostly chewing gum for the ears.
Okay, audio learning. Third.
Take additional courses and seminars. He suggests a minimum of 4 per year. Seek out experts who have practical experience and real-world results, not just theoretical knowledge from textbooks.
Learn from people doing it.
Exactly. This often means cutting back on maybe passive TV time or undirected weekend leisure. Knowledge truly is power, status, and security. The most insecure person, he notes, is the one who has stopped learning. Continuous growth provides that vital self-motivation.
Makes sense. And beyond feeding your mind, the people you surround yourself with are incredibly impactful.
Oh, massively. The source hammers home the power of your reference group. You inevitably become like the people you associate with most closely.
You absorb their attitudes, their expectations.
Everything. His blunt advice. Associate with winners, people who are positive and going somewhere, and limit time with losers, people who drag you down.
Pretty direct.
Very direct. This leads to the concept of a mastermind alliance. Tracy suggests meeting regularly, maybe weekly, with 1 or 2 or more positive, ambitious people you admire.
For synergy and support.
Exactly. The synergy and support you get from this group can be transformative. There's even a provocative suggestion. If you're struggling financially, take successful, wealthier people out to lunch, not to ask for money, obviously, but specifically to ask questions and learn from their thinking.
Learn from their mindset. Okay.
The source also briefly touches on some exciting research into accelerated learning techniques, citing Lazanov's work using things like alpha and theta brainwaves, music, and relaxation.
What did that show?
Dramatically increased learning speed and retention, suggesting the brain's learning capacity is essentially infinite, or at least far greater than we normally use. It reinforces the idea that learning doesn't have to be stressful. It can be incredibly efficient and even beneficial for mental well-being.
Fascinating. So bringing all these principles back to daily life, the source stresses the importance of balance, right?
Yes, balance is key. Managing your time effectively across your work, your play, your relationships, your core values, it's all interconnected.
And these principles apply powerfully to relationships, especially how we raise children.
Oh, absolutely. Building high self-esteem in children is presented as absolutely critical. Destructive criticism, particularly from parents, is incredibly damaging.
Why so damaging?
It's painful, it reduces their sense of self-worth, and it sets children up for lifelong problems with feelings of inferiority and low self-esteem, fears.
And lack of love is a big factor, too.
Crucially, Tracy highlights that lack of love, as perceived by the child, which might differ from the parent's intention, is a major source of problems down the line.
How the child feels it.
Exactly. Children need a constant flow of love and approval, like an emotional intravenous, he calls it. They need praise, encouragement, reinforcement, patience, kindness, caring, gentleness. He says parents should tell their children they love them every single day.
Every day. Okay. The source details 4 specific, concrete behaviors that powerfully communicate love to children. What's the first one?
1. Giving them unconditional love, making sure they know deep down that you love them 100% no matter what they do. Even when you disapprove of their behavior, the love is constant.
Love the child, not necessarily the behavior. Got it.
2. Eye contact. Children literally drink in love and acceptance through their parents' eyes. Tragically, he points out, many parents only use direct eye contact when they're scolding or criticizing.
Oh, wow. So that links eye contact with negativity.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah.
Which can make children uneasy or distrustful of direct gazes later in life, so use loving eye contact often.
That's a good point. 3.
Physical contact. Hugs, kisses, pats, just holding them. These are essential for healthy emotional and physical well-being. He even mentions studies showing that fathers showing affection makes sons more masculine and confident, contrary to some old stereotypes.
Affection is strength. Okay. 4.
Focused attention. Spending time alone with the child daily, even if it's just 10 or 15 minutes with no distractions, no phone, no TV, no chores, just being present.
Undivided attention.
Yes. This sends a powerful message that they are valuable and important enough to have your undivided attention. It builds their sense of worth.
Those are great practical tips. Now, there's a particularly powerful technique offered specifically for parents who maybe feel they've used destructive criticism in the past and want to undo some of that damage.
Yes, this one takes real courage and character, the source admits, but it's said to be profoundly liberating for the child.
Okay, what is it?
Gather your children, sit them down, and sincerely apologize for all the past destructive criticism you've directed at them, anything you said that made them feel small, hurt, or not good enough.
A direct apology for past hurts.
Yes. And take 100% responsibility. Say something like, I am responsible for saying those things. I'm sorry. I apologize. Will you accept my apology?
Wow. That's vulnerable.
Very. Then promise them you will never do it again. And here's the really clever part. Give them permission to remind you if you slip up.
Let them call you out.
Make it a game almost. Say, if I ever say something hurtful like that again, you are allowed to say, Daddy, Mommy, is that destructive criticism?
Turn them into allies.
Exactly. This turns it into a shared mission to banish destructive criticism from the household, making it clear that disagreement is okay, but devaluing another person is not.
That's incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
So let's try and bring it all back together now. The overwhelming central message from this source material seems to be the incredible shaping power of your thoughts and your inner world.
Absolutely. Your outer reality isn't just happening to you. It's a direct consequence, a reflection of what's happening inside you.
So by consciously choosing your thoughts, embracing that 100% responsibility we talked about, actively building your self-esteem, practicing forgiveness,
Committing to continuous learning, surrounding yourself with positive influences, and setting crystal clear, compelling goals. You begin to unlock that vast inner potential Tracy talks about.
and remember the power of the superconscious mind and that law of superconscious activity, that bold, big truth.
Right. If you can hold a clear idea, a plan, or a goal continuously in your conscious mind, especially when you infuse it with intense desire, your superconscious mind must work to bring it into reality. It's presented as a law.
It's like setting your internal GPS and hitting go.
Exactly. And everything we've explored here, these principles, these techniques, the source emphasizes it's all learnable. It takes practice, it takes repetition, maybe falling down and getting back up.
I mean, it's not instant.
Definitely not. But the potential for dramatic, transformative results in your life is immense.
So let's leave you with that powerful thought we touched on during the goal-setting exercise. Cast your mind back to that final question. What one great thing would you dare to dream if you knew you absolutely could not fail?
Remember what came to mind for you. Tracy's claim from the source material is that whatever you wrote down, whatever you thought of, you can achieve it.
It's possible for you.
The real question isn't whether it's possible. The source suggests it is. The question is, how badly do you want it? And are you willing to pay the price to put in the consistent work on your inner world to apply these principles? What will you choose to dream and pursue?